Hello, I'm Maria Hall Brown, and this is LA Currents. You think of film festivals, you think that they normally come around once a year. However, that's not necessarily true, because here in the City of Angels, we have a very exciting film festival that happens every single month. I'm delighted to introduce to you Larry LeBeau from NewFilmmakers Los Angeles, a film festival every month.
Yes, every single month. 12 months a year for the last 12 years.
That's exciting. How did the whole process begin in the first place?
So, I actually moved here from New York City, and when I got to LA, I was wondering, where can I access talent? Where can I find the film community every single month? Where can I see independent films every single month throughout the year?
Right.
And in LA, we had some amazing film festivals. One, we still have AFI Film Festival. We had LA Film Festival. I felt film independent, but I just felt that once a year experience wasn't enough. And I also felt like for filmmakers, they really needed a place to be able to show their work year round, right? If you're a filmmaker, you've invested a lot in making your film. You're really trying to get it seen by audiences and most likely, more importantly, industry as soon as possible. And so for me, it felt like this is something where we can have that same 30 days to talk about, promote, and lead up to a festival where we only have a small number of films playing once a month, but we still have that same number of films playing annually as you would at a traditional festival.
Absolutely, because when you think about film festivals, obviously the ones that come to mind are the Sundance, the Toronto, Cannes, all that kind of thing, but those are really difficult to get into. And will your film actually be seen, because there's so many marquee films taking place?
Right.
But you were talking earlier, or we were talking about the fact that this is an opportunity for people to have their film seen by great industry people, but at the same time, you probably are looking for something pretty specific. I mean, what is it that you're looking for so that you draw these industry films?
I mean, it's interesting, right? There's now, in this day and age, there's 8,000 film festivals out there, right? And every single one of them probably has something very different to offer and a different experience and different resources to bring to the table for filmmakers, or maybe honestly no resources to bring to the table for the filmmaker. I think what NewFilmmakers LA really focuses on, and what we're really looking for, is first and foremost, and I think this is probably true for every festival, we want talented, innovative, unique points of views by filmmakers who are storytellers, right? We really want filmmakers who have something passionate to say, who have lots of ideas, who have a really global point of view. So first and foremost, we're looking for talented storytellers, right? We want somebody who has the idea. Second, of course, like every festival, we're looking at production quality, production value. But honestly, at the end of the day, we're looking for people who have that unique perspective, and we're looking for people who really want to take the next step professionally in their career. Not everything we show is going to be something that we show because we believe that filmmaker can necessarily be a professional commercial filmmaker, right? As a festival, and I think this is true with all festivals, we all have different objectives as festivals, right? Some festivals may not want to have anything to do with the industry component of career building or career development for filmmakers. They may just want to share art and storytelling, right? For us, it's a balance between the art, the storytelling, and the commerce part, the business part of what filmmakers need to do to sort of be sustainable as filmmakers. So we really pride ourselves in having film that's super strong story, but also trying to balance that with films where we know we can bring in industry executives from studios, from networks, from agencies, from management companies, from major distributors to try to help filmmakers get their work seen by as many people as they can, by as many audiences as possible, and also to help provide them resources so they can continue making their stories.
You bring up a good point, because, okay, it's very democratic now with technology. I mean, films can be shot on your phone and all these kinds of things later, but I don't think people really understand that there is a network of professionals that can give you fundamental information and fundamental tools to take the next step up into something that people are willing to spend their money to see. And this almost seems like a miracle that, you know, New Filmmakers Los Angeles actually has these relationships with all these organizations, because you have a relationship with a lot of really strong professional industry standards.
Yeah. So it's been amazing. What we introduced into our festival about 6 years ago is a program called In Focus, and that, for us, it's interesting. We brought that to the table because we really wanted to make sure we were putting out there and saying, hey, we are celebrating underrepresented content creators in our festival. Now, statistically, if you look back through our programming over the years, we always had equal representation amongst women, people of color, LGBTQ plus filmmakers, but we really wanted to do something to say, hey, we're putting our stamp on this. This is a specific group of underrepresented filmmakers that's going to be showcased throughout the year at our different festivals, and that's actually been really powerful in helping to get even more industry engaged to come on board to say, you know what, this is a group of filmmakers, not just aside from the fact that they're talented storytellers, this is a group of filmmakers that I can get behind because I know what it was like to be Latinx in the industry and come up. I know what it was like to be a woman in the industry and come up. I know what it was like to be LGBTQ+. I know what it was like to be a black filmmaker coming up in the industry. So those alliances, from the diversity and inclusion perspective of what we do, have been very powerful for the filmmakers, I think the film community as a whole, in terms of like diversifying the pool of talent that's out there. An example I would give is our program that we do. So 2 of our festivals out of the 12, we co-host with the Academy. For those viewers who don't know, that's the Oscars, right? And so in hosting those events, what we do, those 2 specific events are Latinx and Hispanic cinema, and then Middle Eastern, Arab, and Dutch. And by the way, we celebrate international content as also diversity in terms of point of view and region. And so this past one that happened, our past Latinx event, we had Disney Plus, Walt Disney Television, HBO, Pantalion, which is a part of Lionsgate, Fox Searchlight, and we had top executives. I mean, vice presidents of content development, managers of acquisitions for the companies.
I'm sorry, how did you get all of this? Because these names are the types of names that to be in front of for a young filmmaker would be almost impossible to believe. So how did you garner these people?
Yeah, so that's part of like what our passion is as an organization, is bringing the community together. And it's every component, right? We want to help filmmakers get exposure. We want to help filmmakers make professional connections. We want filmmakers celebrated to audiences. So it's just a lot of passionate outreach, to be honest. We've been building alliances over the years. So a takeaway from this past event with Walt Disney Television was they actually reached out and said, you know what? We loved the meetings with all the 14 filmmakers so much. We want to invite every single one of them to register within Walt Disney Television, to be considered for Marvel, to be considered for all ABC, Freeform. So now all of those filmmakers are entered into a database at Walt Disney Company to be considered for projects that are happening throughout the Walt Disney Company family. Wow. So that's a win for us. Like, that's the kind of thing that we really want to see happening. Going back to our roots, and at the end of the day, though, we are here as an arts and cultural organization. That is our foundation, right? So whether or not we're going to be able to connect someone with the industry, that's the ultimate goal, right? But we feel the work that we're doing just at a foundational level of making sure this content has a place to be seen and that these filmmakers have a place to connect with industry and connect with audiences is equally important. So I think it's an interesting question to turn around for the filmmakers, right? If you're a filmmaker who's heading out onto the festival circuit, you really have to decide before you start submitting, because again, right, there are 8,000 festivals. You really have to decide, what is my objective for playing at festivals? Is it just to get my film seen by audiences? Is it to get representation? Is it to get my film distributed? Is it to get connections at studios and networks? I think filmmakers have to have objectives, right? Because all of these festivals out, they all have their own objectives, and they all have their own communities and access to certain things. Maybe one festival is going to be better for you as a filmmaker to obtain press, and another is going to be great for you to be celebrated by the local community. So I think it's really important that filmmakers also do that homework in choosing which festival is right for them.
Yes, because from an artistic standpoint, you can be unbelievably creative and you can create this wonderful thing, but strategy and actually getting it seen is something that is not necessarily given. It's not necessarily taught. It's a big mysterious void of, now I've got this, what do I do with it? So what you're saying is so accurate. But the other interesting part about that is that is there some part of New Filmmakers Los Angeles that helps a filmmaker with the strategic way in which they can get their things seen?
Absolutely, yeah. So part of that strategy for us is making sure those connections are brought to the table, providing access to those connections at every one of our festivals. We have a database of 59,000 people in our newsletter, so we're sending people's information out to distributors, agents, managers, production companies, film finance companies, sales agents, you name it. We're making sure that filmmakers are getting seen and their content is getting in front of these people. That's our tried and true way of making sure that there's a conversation between the industry, audiences, and the filmmakers.
It's real social.
So that's what we focus on doing.
You know, we've been using the word filmmakers in films as kind of a very loose term right now, but what are the categories of because it's not just, you know, a feature-length film, it's not just a documentary film. So what are the things that you, where are your lines?
So we focus on episodic content, feature film, short film, documentary film, and animated film. We do play what we would call new media, which, you know, for us, it's sort of the same thing as maybe episodic, but maybe a shorter form piece of content. And we play experimental films as well. Again, we tend to focus more on films and filmmakers who we feel can be developed more commercially.
Okay.
But going back to our artistic and cultural roots as an organization, we want to make sure we're sharing art as well.
You started this when you were just a mere lad. You've been doing this for a long time. I mean, rumor has it you were not even legal to have a cocktail when you started this. You started this when you were 20.
Yeah, it's true. I was 20, yeah. Yeah.
Has it blossomed into something beyond what you imagined it to be? And do you have hopes and dreams for what you think it can be?
Yeah, I think it's grown so much. I mean, I know it's grown so much in terms of reach, in terms of presence within the industry, in terms of just watching our filmmakers blossom over the years and being able to provide them with access and connections that have turned into job opportunities, distribution, all the things that I've mentioned. That's really powerful for us. I think where we see ourselves going as an organization is being able to provide more of these professional development components to be able to grow the festivals larger. Right now we're in the South Park Center in downtown Los Angeles on a monthly basis, so we have a 500-seat theater there. We'll see.
That's a good size.
That's a very good size for us on a monthly basis, so we'll see where that goes next. But I think some of our long-term objectives are also looking for, you know, potentially a permanent home where not only at the festival we can be showing independent movies, but also maybe throughout the year on a weekly basis we could be showing movies that are not necessarily part of the festival and giving filmmakers another place independently to have their work shown.
Have you noticed that there are any particular trends, or there are any particular directions that seem to be resonating with industry professionals? Because obviously we've also talked about, you mentioned some of these platforms, the Disney platform that's coming out. So there's a need for content, that's for sure. But there is a need for the kind of content that will be attracted, that eyeballs will be attracted to. So what are you seeing that seems to be in a good direction?
A huge trend over the last 5 years, 6 years, has actually been an episodic. So I always say to our filmmakers, New Filmmakers LA celebrates film, and we will always celebrate film and filmmakers. But being a filmmaker means you are a storyteller. And telling that story, whether it be for a TV format or a film format, I think you can tell your story equally as well. There are obviously some amazing, amazing television shows. And we have seen, as you mentioned, with all the streaming platforms, the funding that's available through all of these streaming platforms and the competition that exists amongst all of these streaming platforms gives huge room for opportunity to filmmakers. So a lot of the filmmakers, including Varda, who you're going to be speaking with today, they have really had major opportunities in television, right? And you see a lot of television studios have their development pipelines. And I think look, film is a different beast. It's definitely a lot more difficult. I think with film, you are constantly starting and stopping a brand new recreation of your own business, essentially, right? It's like you have the life and the life cycle of a project, and then you kind of got to move on and restart, right? Reboot. With TV can live on for a very long period of time, and it's also a little bit more sustainable, the model that's built around TV. So I do believe that any filmmaker who wants to make film should also be open to television. I think, why not? It's such a great format.
Well, the actors are.
Exactly. So, and you see so many filmmakers now also making television.
Right, and the quality of television that is being made, there's a very fine line between what you see in a theater, or you might be seeing it in a theater, and then its long-term intent is to go on to whatever visual streaming platform device that you can see it. But I want to ask you one sort of complicated question, but I need kind of a simple answer. With all these production companies, the Netflix, et cetera, they are also diversifying their locations. I mean, Albuquerque, New Mexico is the new home of Netflix, big studio there. But is LA still the heart and soul of all of this? Is it still got that dynamism that it had from the beginning?
Definitely LA is still the heart and soul, undoubtedly, absolutely, for sure. I think we have to be more competitive because the companies that are leaving and doing productions elsewhere, of course they're always going to have a presence here, a very large presence here, but they're leaving for financial reasons. They're leaving because incentives are available other places, and ultimately when you're a nearly Fortune 500 company, you're making decisions based on shareholders, right?
Sure.
Netflix is going to make decisions based on shareholders and profits. Of course, Netflix does a fantastic job at making really wise, creative decisions as well. But at the end of the day, when you're talking about budgets that are maybe $100 million and a 40% tax credit or rebate versus no tax credit or rebate, I'm pretty sure you're going to go choose the place that you might get about $40 million back, right? So that you can continue to make more great content. So I think that's the challenge that not necessarily Los Angeles faces, but the entire state of California faces. And I think the legislature of the state and the governor of the state have done a great job. Obviously, we have a new governor now, but I think that they've done a great job bringing the tax credit up. I think it needs to go up much more to support the infrastructure and ecosystem of production here, because as much as those credits may go to these bigger budget productions, these bigger budget productions and even commercial shoots are feeding and paying the bills of independent filmmakers who go out and do their passion projects. So it's all, I hate to say the trickle down effect, but really that's sort of what it is in helping independent filmmakers to make their work a lot of times. And I think the state did a great job of building in their independent production section of the tax credit. They did a great job of building in the outside of the 30-mile zone, and additional, I believe it's 5% credit if you shoot outside of LA. I think the entire state of California really benefits from that credit, and it's been proven over and over again to generate more than it costs taxpayers. So hopefully the state will invest more in that the next time it's re-upped.
We have a lot more to talk about, so don't go far. And we'll be back in just a few.
So I want to take this opportunity to recognize NewFilmmakers LA Student Mentorship Program. The sharing of our skills and knowledge with other generations is key for passing the baton to the next generation.
We're excited to keep LA as the storytelling capital of the world.
Hello, we're back with Larry LeBeau from New Filmmakers Los Angeles, but we're also joined by Varda Barkar, who is a filmmaker who has a great relationship with the New Filmmakers Los Angeles. You had a couple short films that
Yes.
you had worked with Larry with, and then that led to a big prize that led to a bigger film. It's a fairy tale story. You have to share it with us.
Okay, well, I would be happy to. I originally actually met Larry at an event. We had both were creating online content, and certain people were invited by, I think, YouTube. I don't remember exactly.
Webby Awards.
The Webby Awards. And we met there, and I learned about New Filmmakers LA, and was very impressed since I had at the time was making short films, and I entered my first film, which was What Kind of Planet Are We On? You screened it when it was still in the small space.
And it was actually really interesting because when Varda and I connected, I checked out the work that she had done, and I was so blown away by What Kind of Planet because, as I had mentioned to you earlier when we were talking, this was actually a narrative short that was acting as a PSA. And I thought that Varda had done this so brilliantly. I was blown away by her ability to tell this story within this PSA, and I felt like it should play. It should play at festivals with all the other narrative shorts that were playing because there was so much craft, there was so much character, there was so much storytelling, and Varda nailed it. There was just so much talent and
All put in a little small
visualization
package.
and story right there, and that's the first project that we screened from you.
That was.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And then the second one won an award.
Yes. Then the next one was Larry and New Filmmakers LA had launched On Location, and which was a contest where you were invited to make films about Los Angeles, different, depending, it could be different things, but there were 1 minute films, and I think at the time there were...
You could make a film anywhere from 1 to 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And so Larry encouraged me to submit a film. And so I do really love Los Angeles, and there's very specific things I really love about it. And I'd already been thinking, I'd made a poem film before, and I was thinking, I really want to make another poem film. So I took it on and made a film. It was like a poem, really. And then visualized the poem through, all these different locations in Los Angeles, and then submitted the film, and then that film ended up winning the grand prize.
Which gave you seed money, from what I understand, for you to be able to take your talent and broaden it into a longer format story. And the story ended up to be Big Voice, which is a documentary about a choral conductor of a group at Santa Monica High School. But you didn't know much about choral music at the time.
That's right. Right before I won that award, I was thinking about what I wanted to do next. And I had this hit of, I would love to make a film about Mr. Halls and the choir. And then when I won the award, it was at that moment that I realized, and I announced it, remember when I said thank you and everything, that I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it towards this documentary I want to make called Big Voice. And I didn't know much, as a documentary filmmaker, you don't really need to know about the subject. In fact, it's probably often best when you don't, because you're doing it because you want to learn about it. You're curious, and you want to dig deep and you want to get under it. And so this gave me the opportunity. And what I was really inspired by was Mr. Hall's ability to create excellent art, true art, right there in a public high school. And knowing what that takes to create something truly extraordinary, I was authentically curious as to how he accomplished that. And I wanted to know. I wanted to have an understanding of that. So that's how that came about.
And obviously very successful. It broadcast on multiple platforms, PBS being one of them.
Yes.
Yay, PBS. But this relationship that is created with the filmmakers, this is a perfect example of what the possibilities are and what the promise is, because it's continued even after that particular incident. So this goes on and has a long-term relationship, does it not?
Absolutely.
Yes. Larry has been extremely supportive. And even to the point where, he encouraged me to grow and to get into TV. I ended up being part of the Ryan Murphy Hoff Foundation program, and I directed my first TV show, and 911. And at the time, Larry said to me, "We've got to get an agent." And I said, "But I don't know how to do that." And he said, he literally helped me figure out how to find an agent.
Wow.
I mean, it's an amazing thing, and he's wonderful. And I couldn't ask for someone better to be representing me through that. So, now we keep going, and I know that there's now I've done Fandango at the Wall, and of course there's the Latinx program. I'll submit to that, and maybe
and we got your fingers crossed for Sundance.
That's right. We've submitted to Sundance and to South by Southwest, and for this new project.
And the new project, you have to share, because he wouldn't tell me a thing about the new project. He was saving it all for you, and obviously it's very exciting because he is incredibly enthusiastic about it.
Well, he saw a little teaser we did for it. Basically, we just locked picture this morning. I've been working on it for 2 years, and I had thought about really wanting to make a film that has to do with the relationship between the United States and Mexico. Us being in Los Angeles and being so close to Mexico, I really feel, a connection to Mexico. I feel like we're compadres. And with some of the kind of talk around about Mexicans that was happening, I started to think, I really want to do something about that. And I want to learn about Mexico and Mexicans. I actually don't know. I have an idea, but I really hadn't dug deep into this relationship. And I'd love doing a music documentary, and I love music. And I thought, I'd love it to be about music. And I suddenly saw on Facebook a post with a group called Film Fatale, which is a women's directors group, saying, "Oh, we're looking for a filmmaker to film a festival at the border wall." And I was just like, immediately, I was like, "Oh, this is it." And I contacted the executive producer, and we started to talk it through, and we realized it was a much bigger story. And we ended up traveling to, basically, the festival is called Fandango Fronterizo, and it's a festival that is rooted in the son jarocho tradition, which is a 300-year-old musical tradition from Veracruz, Mexico, that combines African, Spanish, and indigenous traditions.
That's a lot.
And so what we did is the Afro-Latin Jazz Orchestra founder and conductor had heard about the festival and wanted to bring his orchestra there to the wall. So what we did is we followed them to Veracruz, Mexico, and we met with the masters of son jarocho who lead the festival. And then we all converged at the border wall where this festival took place. And the Arturo Farrell, who's the founder of the Afro-Latin Jazz Orchestra, was so inspired he decided to bring the son jarocho musicians to New York for a concert and continue the Fandango there. So the film tells this story about this, convergence and the transformation through music and art of the border, from an object that divides to one that unites.
Which fits in perfectly to what you were saying about stories that have never been told by talented filmmakers, then have an opportunity to share all this with all of us.
And Varda nailed it as a follow-up.
Yeah.
She nailed it, right? So I said innovation, unique point of view.
Yes.
I think she nailed it with curiosity. I think curiosity and exploration and that desire to learn more and experience more and be open to new ideas and new perspectives is exactly, as you asked, what type of filmmaker we're looking for. Somebody who hears something and just, oh, I want to make this connection. I want to build this bridge. I want to tell this story. I want to see where this story can go. Curiosity and exploration. That's what it's all about. And hearing you get that spark that you got from that Facebook post is exactly it. That's what we want to see in a storyteller, somebody who can get that spark and have that new idea and continue to build on new ideas that they may not have ever thought it was something that they wanted to explore before. That's what's really exciting for me every day with New Filmmakers, is to see the Vardas and all the filmmakers that come through and are creating this magical content.
Okay, so on a very practical note, if somebody is curious and wants to explore New Filmmakers Los Angeles, what's the easiest way for them to find out some more info?
I would definitely recommend going to our website. So not only is it a great way to learn about us, if you want to check out our website, which is nfmla.org, like New Filmmakers LA, so nfmla.org. We have a industry resources page as well on our website. So not only can you learn about what we do and the programs that we offer and what events we have coming up, you can also learn what Sundance is doing, opportunities through the Ryan Murphy Half Foundation, opportunities that Universal has. just the list sort of goes on and
All
on and
questions will be answered.
Yes.
Well, I am so excited to have had the opportunity to talk with you and to talk with you, Varda, and best of luck with your film. I'm very excited, and I hope it ends up in every place you want it to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And can I just add one more thing? That New Filmmakers LA is also a great place for audiences.
Yes.
To discover new works and to see short films that you'd never be able to see anywhere else.
It's all very exciting. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
And that's LA Currents.